Hello, and welcome to another Bible class from the Eubank Church of Christ. I'm Dale Robbins, the minister here at Eubank, and we've been going through a study of the book of Proverbs, using as an aid in our study a workbook by Brother Mike Willis. And we've been looking at collections of verses out of the book of Proverbs that focus on various themes that can be found in the book. And today, as we look at lesson number 6, we're looking at the importance of friendship. We have many people today that are very isolated. We have moved to this information age where we use the text on our phone or on our computers to send our messages back and forth, but often we lose that personal touch, the true value of friendship and of friends who can help to mold us and shape us and support us as we go through the various challenges that we face in this life. Solomon has a lot to say about the importance of friends. There are some people who think they can go through this life as total loners. They don't need anybody, and they are very low on people skills. They simply are not able to relate to other people, and hence they lose the tremendous benefit that comes from having true friends. In question 1, the author asks, when might a friend love you but others do not? In Proverbs chapter 17 and going down to verse 17, Solomon talks about the birth of friends and the connections that we make. He said, a friend loveth at all times. A friend is going to stand there with you and be supportive. It says, and a brother is born for adversity. Our family and friends are very critical people in our social circle, because there are going to be times when we're not at our best and we need somebody to help us see what we're doing and to find remedies when we make mistakes. It may be that we would misspeak something. We would say it inappropriately. Maybe we give away a secret that we shouldn't give away, or we've said something inappropriate. And we need someone to be able to call our hand on that in a gentle way and help us understand you kind of made a mess of that. And to maybe help us understand what we can do to try and reconcile to somebody that we may have offended, or to correct the misstatement that we have made. Sometimes we may forget something, and it's embarrassing to us, and we need to have it brought to our attention. I remember one time when my older brother was getting married, the preacher forgot about the day of the wedding. And instead of coming to the church for the wedding, he went to the state fair. And so we had to track him down and all sit there and wait until a very embarrassed preacher showed up to conduct the wedding ceremony. He was humiliated. He felt so badly about what he had forgot. But as friends and as individuals who loved him, it was no big deal. And we were able to work through that, forgive, and to go on. But in order for him to pick up his spirits, he needed to see some smiling, friendly faces instead of individuals who scorned him and were harsh on him in his embarrassment. But there are going to be times when we encounter adversity. There's going to be some rough spots in this life. And we need others to encourage us, sometimes to listen to us as we vent, and to maybe give us some creative advice to help us handle the adversity that we face. And so here Solomon is saying that a friend loves at all times. They're not the fair weather variety, that they're friends for just the good days, and then they run off and leave us whenever things are not so good. A true friend is there all the time, and is there even in our trials and in our adversities to comfort and to encourage. In question 2, it says, why is a friend sometimes closer than a brother? That's the point that he makes here in Proverbs chapter 18 and going down to verse 24. He says at the ending of that verse, there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. Sometimes we're separated by distance. We're not able to have family members around us. It seems at this point in our history, many families are strewed all across the country and may even be around the world. We just do not have an array of family around that can always be there to pick us up and to encourage us, and also Difficult circumstances may arise where we become somewhat estranged from members of the family. There have been deep-seated offenses that have not yet been reconciled. Well, we should not still go on through life alone, but rather instead find others who can help us to sort things out, make the best of our situations, and help us in our journey to find peace, reconciliation, and solutions to the problems that we face. In Proverbs 27 and going down to verse 10, Solomon says, "Thine own friend and thy father's friend forsake not, neither go into thy brother's house in the day of thy calamity. For better is a neighbor that is near than a brother far off." We need friends that can be accessible to us. We're very blessed in this day and time to be able to have communication tools to help us keep in touch even with friends that are far away. But Solomon is making the point that sometimes we need the face-to-face. We need a hug. We need a touch. We need individuals to say it's okay and to help us through even those difficult moments. So we need to have friends that are there, and sometimes they have to stand in when there's no physical family that can be supportive. Over in question 3, he says, how do friends rejoice the heart? Here in Proverbs 27 and verse 9, it says, "Ointment and perfume rejoice the heart, and so doth the sweetness of a man's friend by hearty counsel." A man's friend can be very refreshing in the sense of helping to see some humor in the situation, to give some good advice that could open the door to a resolution to a problem. A good friend with sound advice can uplift our spirits and just make us feel better by their good counsel. Just like we do when we're getting cleaned up, and you feel better when you've had a good shower and you've gotten cleaned up and refreshed yourself. It's a good feeling. And so it is with a friend, a true friend, that gives good counsel and helps you see solutions to problems, and also can give congratulations whenever that is due. In question 4, he says, what advantage are friends during adversity? There are times when we're going to have those hard days. There are going to be conditions where we find ourselves where a friend is direly needed, something we really need to have as our support. In Ecclesiastes chapter 4, beginning in verse 9, Solomon says, "Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. Again, if two lie together, then they have heat. But how can one be warm alone? And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him. And a threefold cord is not quickly broken." Whenever you are surrounded by an array of godly friends, strong supporters, they are able to help you as you face the adversities and challenges that you face. There may be many tasks that you're not able to do alone, but with the help of one or two friends and a couple of extra pairs of hands, you're able to get the task completed successfully. There are many times when we're going to be facing maybe those moments of hardship. There are often individuals who want to go out into the wilderness for one reason or another. It's far wiser for them to have someone with them in case of there being an accident or some problem that they are beset by, rather than trying to go it alone. Friends are there to help, and we need to be aware of that need amongst our friends and to see what we can do in that capacity to help them during their adversity, as they will be a help to us whenever we face the same kind of need. But then there are also times when we desperately need friends to kind of help us keep some perspective. Over in question 5, he says, what advantage are friends during prosperity? Now, there are many folks who are what we call fair weather friends. They are there as long as they can get something, have some reward, have a good time, have some way to enjoy themselves. But whenever it comes to looking at the real needs of life, they're nowhere to be found. And so what we find here is that Solomon is making the point that even in prosperity, you need somebody there to help keep your head screwed on and help you see what you need to do. Over in Proverbs chapter 27 and going to verse 17, he makes the point that iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpeneth the counsel of his friend. You need someone to help you to keep your proper focus and to keep your proper attitude. And sometimes those friends are hard to come by and the circumstances can be difficult. I'm reminded of a case that's shown to us over in 2 Samuel, in which we find that King David needed a friend to call him out for the way in which he was behaving. Over in 2 Samuel chapter 19, we find the story of what is the aftermath of the rebellion led by David's son Absalom. And in that rebellion, Absalom had been killed as he had driven David off the throne, and David had to come back and reclaim it by force. And whenever David found out that his son Absalom had been killed, he is overcome with grief and carries on as though things are just terrible because his son, who had wickedly driven him off the throne, had now perished in the struggle. And beginning in verse 1 of 2 Samuel 19, it says, It was told Joab, Behold, the king weepeth and mourneth for Absalom. And the victory that day was turned into mourning unto all the people, for the people heard say that day how the king was grieved for his son. And the people gat them by stealth that day into the city, as people being ashamed steal away when they flee in battle. But the king covered his face, and the king cried with a loud voice, O my son Absalom, O Absalom, my son, my son. And Joab came into the house to the king and said, Thou hast shamed this day the faces of all of thy servants, which this day have saved thy life, and the lives of thy sons and of thy daughters, and the lives of thy wives, and the lives of thy concubines, in that thou lovest thine enemies, and hatest thy friends. For thou hast declared this day that thou regardest neither princes nor servants. For this day I perceive that if Absalom had lived, and all we had died this day, then it would have pleased thee well. Now therefore arise, go forth and speak comfortably unto thy servants. For I swear by the Lord, if thou go not forth, there will not tarry one with thee this night, and that will be worse unto thee than all the evil that befell thee from thy youth until now. And then the king arose and sat in the gate, and they told unto all the people, saying, Behold, the king doth sit in the gate. And all the people came before the king, for Israel had fled every man to his tent. Here David had been so consumed with his own grief that he forgot his duties as king. And Joab went in and said, Look, these people risked their lives to save your throne, to save your life, and to save your family. And from the way you're going to the excess in your grief and your mourning for your son that has been killed, you're acting as though you would rather all of us have died and that he won the battle. You've got to assume your position. You've got to understand the responsibilities that rest on your shoulders. Get out there and tell the people thank you for what they did. Joab was a friend, and he helped David regain his bearings in this very difficult time. So even whenever good things happen and prosperity is yours, we need friends to help us keep our focus and proper attitude. In question 6, why would a person have trouble rejoicing in the prosperity of a friend? Sometimes that happens. Good fortune befalls a good friend, and we become jealous, or we become consumed with envy because somebody else had good that came to their house. We wish it was us. Why didn't that happen for me? And so we become embittered against a friend because envy and jealousy shades our thinking. And even though somebody is being blessed, we should rejoice that they've received such a blessing rather than be upset that they got it rather than us. Over in question 7, he says, Why are the wounds of a friend better than the kisses of an enemy? Over in Proverbs 27, verses 5 and 6, Solomon makes this point. He says, open rebuke is better than secret love. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. Whenever you have an enemy who is trying to flatter you and to kind of kiss up to you, so to speak, it's because they are waiting for the opportunity to take advantage. But a friend is going to shoot you straight. A friend is going to tell it like it is. Now, here again, they have no right to be, excessively cruel and harsh. They just need to be direct. And in love, explain the situation to help see all different sides of an issue. And so the wounds of a friend safeguard you from yourself. They help you to keep a proper perspective. It helps you to preserve the sense of right and wrong. And so you don't need to be surrounded by a bunch of friends that are just yesers. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Anything you say, sir, it's always going to be right, sir. Sometimes you need someone to say, you need to stop and think about that. There may be a better choice than what you're currently seeing. And so we need information that sometimes may hurt. It may wound us, but it's something that is constructive criticism that can help us move forward in a positive way. In question 8, why is pity from a friend so comforting? Job talked about that over in Job chapter 6 and going down to verse 14. Job here was, of course, going through all different kinds of difficulties, but he was having a hard time finding counselors who were truly on the up and up and could give him the help that he needed. Over in Job chapter 6 and verse 14, he is making the point here about the importance of the right kind of counselor. To him that is afflicted, pity should be showed from his friend, but he that forsaketh the fear of the Almighty. You need to have individuals who fear God, individuals who are going to want to help you in the right way, and they're going to be able to show the pity or the empathy that you need. Somebody who can share, I've been down this road. There's a certain kinship here between us as we face this in particular adversity. Whenever somebody is able to convey that feeling, then we can take the words that they say as more encouragement. They know what they're talking about. They have obviously demonstrated their concern. So the pity is not to be spurned. It is a source of comfort to us as individuals do it the right way. Now, here again, self-pity and excessive pity, that's another story. But just having someone throw an arm around you and say, we can get through this, I understand where you are, that means a lot to us as we share time with our friends. In question 9, what are some wrong ways to make friends? Well, many people have a hard time discovering how to make friends, and they try some strategies that are indeed inappropriate. Over in Proverbs chapter 19 and going to verse 6, he says, many will entreat the favor of the prince, and every man is a friend to him that giveth gifts. Sometimes we can try to buy friendships. If we give people gifts, if we bestow upon them all kinds of favor, we think that maybe that's going to make them our friend. Well, as long as the gifts are coming, that may work. But whenever we have to pull back from that, not so much. And so friends are not going to be lifelong true friends if we're trying to buy their affection with various gifts and favors to try to win them over as friends for ourselves. We find also over in Proverbs chapter 14, there is another strategy here that can be non-profitable when it comes to our friendships. He said, the poor is hated even of his own neighbor, but the rich have many friends. There are some folks who want to shy up to an individual who is successful, and they want to follow them along almost like a groupie. And they want to be there because they look at that wealth and they kind of idolize the wealth. And what can I do to get a little piece of that wealth or the benefits of that wealth for myself? And so you wind up suddenly being surrounded by friends of flattering words, individuals who simply want something out of you, and so they want to become your friend. Time and experience helps us to see through this facade and to recognize false friends, or just the fair weather friends, as I call them, that we may encounter in this life. They're going to be the ones to disappoint you. And sometimes, often in our society, there may be discord in the family. Maybe there are other efforts made where you want to buy the affection of a child or buy the affection of a spouse or something. And it's not going to work. That's not going to give you the kind of friendship that you truly need. We find in question 10, what must one do to have friends? How are we really going to get those friends that we need? Well, let's look at a few strategies for making friends. The first one, over in Proverbs 18 and verse 24, he says, a man that hath friends must show himself friendly. Friendship is a two-way street. And individuals can sometimes become very angry that I have no friends. No one seems to care about me. Well, how much have you cared for others? How much have you shown yourself friendly and supportive to somebody else in need? This isn't a one-way street. If we want friendships, then we're going to have to show ourselves to be friendly. In Proverbs chapter 27, and going down to verse 10, Solomon says, thine own friend and thy father's friend forsake not, neither go into thy brother's house in the day of thy calamity, for better is a neighbor that is near than a brother far off. We noticed that passage a little while ago. Friends need to be there. Individuals who, one way or another, either in physical presence or through some media means, they are there to listen and to help. You don't want to have to go track them down. You don't want to be in a situation of whenever you call for their help or want to stoke the fires of friendship, they're nowhere to be found. We need to have that proximity or that connection if we want to have friends. Some people are really bad about wanting to be friends for the moment, but then whenever they get the help that they need or get a word of encouragement, they don't even know you anymore. They walk away, you never hear from them until they have their next problem and have their next need, and then they'll be calling for you. True friends maintain that connection. In Proverbs chapter 25, and going down to verse 19, he said, confidence in an unfaithful man in time of trouble is like a broken tooth and a foot that is out of joint. We need friends that are loyal, friends that will be there, friends that will listen. And all too often, we wind up not having that relationship, and then we become disappointed. The friends that turn on us, the friends that desert us. I'm sure it was very discouraging to Jesus in John chapter 6 when there were lots of people following him as long as he provided them a free meal. But whenever he started putting the emphasis on the words that I speak, they are spirit and they are life, then it said many went back and walked no more with him. That is a source of discouragement. It's always hard when you've misjudged a friendship and people disappoint you. But nonetheless, true friends are going to stick with you. And that's what the apostles and many others did in the life of Jesus. They were true friends. They were close on a long-term basis. And then going back to Proverbs 22 and going down to verse 11, here Solomon is also saying, he that loveth pureness of heart, for the grace of his lips, the king shall be his friend. If you just have purity in your life, you're a good person. People know that you can be counted on. You're going to stand up for what's right. That's the kind of person folks will seek out to have as friends, because they realize you're going to be there and your counsel is worth listening to. So those are some of the strategies that can help us truly develop long-term, lasting friendships that are of benefit to us, as opposed to those strategies of using gifts or flattery and that kind of thing to try and win friends that are very superficial at best. Well, there's a lot more to talk about the importance of friendships and the way in which they can be of benefit to us. And so we'll pick up with the second half of this lesson next week. But we appreciate you joining us as we've gone through these first questions in Lesson 6, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next week as we continue our study in Proverbs.